So I guess what I would like to do is introduce you, Gareth, to those who don't know you, and many of the people on this call and who will be watching this later will know exactly who you are. Gareth and I probably met. I think it was October Business Month last year, wasn't it? We
That's right. Yeah.
ran into each other at the expo in Darwin and had a chat, and we really both noticed that there was a real gap when it came to the subtopic of IP or intellectual property, but also things like trademarking, even down to the most simple things about copyright. There was a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of what I call barbecue attorneys hanging around. They'll give you, oh mate, you need to go and do this. Oh mate, you need to go and do that. But no one really speaking to this from a point of any sort of credibility or authority. So it was actually really like timely to run into Gareth at OBM last year because it was a topic that come up quite a few times over the last, probably the last 5 years, I guess, of what I've been in the core of my business. And I'm at the point now where I'm about to do all this IP work and all this trademark work. If you don't know what any of that means, I'm sure that Gareth is going to help to illuminate all that and tell us a lot more about what his future plans are. For those of you who are in Darwin and very much who are well beyond Darwin as well, I think we've got people from all over Australia. So without further ado, I want to hand over to Gareth, who'll take over and introduce you to the concepts around this and how you can enhance your business success in an ideas economy. Over to you, Gareth.
Thanks so much, Dante. I really appreciate the warm welcome and warmly welcoming you all here today to discuss this interesting topic and relevant to all business owners. It's great to see people coming on board and some people from LinkedIn and other worlds as well. Roger, warm welcome to you. Judy Clements, Mark Fraser, Roger Smith, Sally Arnold, all great to have you here. And Alex, just so I get a context of who is in the Zoom room today, could you please pop in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind, the name or industry of your business, the name and industry of your business. This will allow me to tailor a few of the 5 top tips that I have in how to actually bring your ideas in business to market. Just while you're doing that, a small background on me. I've been an intellectual property and commercial lawyer for 20 years. I've worked with organisations such as SBS Television, CSIRO, and the Australian Centre of Moving Image. And for the last 10 years, much like Dante, I've been focusing on those that are leveraging their business online, digital entrepreneurs. And today I'm going to welcome you into a concept I call the ideology compass. It is actually the subject or part of the tools launching in a book that I'm releasing on the 24th of September. And its sole purpose is to actually assist Australian business owners leverage their ideas with intellectual property. So I'm just going to get started. It is a collaborative session. There will be an opportunity to actually ask some questions about intellectual property, and I'd love to know, some of the people in the room. Thank you so much. Just a quick shout out to these people who have taken the time. Roger has got a business named Antler, an early stage VC. Tanya has trademark plumbing and gas fitting. That's a trademark. That'll be an interesting name to see if you can trademark that one, Tanya. Plumbing and gas fitting, fantastic. Great to have our industrial friends in the room. Judy Clemens, several digital products, fantastic. This will be a really good and solid conversation with Dante about your digital products. And Sally is creating Encore's wellbeing, coaching and training. Oilfield Connect, virtual supply chain. Great to have a mix of, let's call them digital businesses as well as traditional businesses, bricks and mortar businesses. The good news is intellectual property covers both the spectrum of those in industry, but also those who are also in the new world of digital and developing perhaps their traditional coaching practice online. So I'm going to get started with the formal presentation now. Just bear with me while I share my screen, and we look forward to sharing some more with you in just one moment. And off we go. So as I said, warm welcome and thank you, Dante, for hosting today. As I mentioned, I'm an IP lawyer and we're here to discuss today IP for business. I'd like to start where most great things begin, and that is in the power of story. Basically, there's no doubt that in the established businesses that are in the room, that you have many ideas in business. Essentially, I'm putting today the proposition that you are the captain of your idea. You are the human resource that drives this idea forward. And at the end of the day, like any good captain, you need tools that will allow you to navigate the seas of success to bring your ideas to market. Many of you in the room have already established ideas in your business, or perhaps you have a side idea that are part of your business that you'd like to bring out. We're going to explore that today using a tool called the Ideology Compass. Basically, it's a play on the word ideas, and in fact, the 5 steps of the compass are, in fact, the words ideas. Essentially, it's the proposition that you, as the captain of idea, using the compass, can actually navigate your way to success by using these 5 steps. First of all, it's about identifying your idea, asking yourself, is this the idea that I truly want to bring to market, whether it's part of your business or otherwise? Once you've actually made that important decision, it's about developing the ideas. It's about doing the research and taking advantage of the digital resources available to you to actually ascertain who your competitors are, identify primary and secondary research to actually develop that idea at the cheapest possible cost. Now, the great news is that we now live in an ideas economy, and thanks to the tools of digital that Dante, for example, helps others develop, then you have accessible to information you've never had access to before. Have you found that, Dante, in your business, in helping business owners develop digital marketing strategies? Have you found accessible information?
I guess that I've always joked that everything I can teach is able to be Googled. So there's not a lot of what I do that's necessarily unique, but the expression of that, I guess, is something which is very personal and very much my way of doing it. But the information itself, I guess, finding information, there's tons of it. There's tons of information out there, and it's really easy to find around digital marketing and web and that. But it's about what the information is that's worth actually reading, because some of that information may be 10 years old. Some of that information may be utterly irrelevant.
Absolutely. So you need to be discerning in the source of information you use. But in terms of developing your idea, it probably there's never been a time in human history where it's been easier to bring your ideas to market, thanks to digital marketing channels. After developing your ideas, this is the heart and soul of this presentation. It's about expressing them with IP. As Dante just said, he's got a unique way of even delivering his business in terms of coaching, in terms of building valuable digital resources. That's Dante's unique intellectual property. We're going to actually cover what the core aspects of intellectual property are, from trademarks to copyright to patents, and even in terms of contracts and licensing. So you have equipped as a captain with some further tools to build your boat full of intellectual property. We'll also touch finally on accelerating your ideas, valuing what you actually have, valuing what you've actually developed, and then the crucial and most important step in all of this is a strategy. Australians have typically been fallen very poor in this area. It's about a commercialization strategy to bring your ideas to market. So look, that's an overview of what we're going to cover today. Let's jump and dive in and begin building our boat with valuable intellectual property. As I mentioned before, let's identify what our intellectual property is today. Here's a couple of terms. Maybe people can jump in the chat box what they believe is one of their most valuable intellectual property items. Your trademark is often the flag that flies high above your ship. For Dante, it might be Clickstarter, or it may be a number one of products that Dante has developed. But you can bet your bottom dollar that underneath the boat, in the hull, is valuable copyright. Now, this is something that every business owner has in their business. It's the web copy, it's your social media copy, it's your business plans. Further to that, you may also have valuable designs. This is particularly for those that might be in industrial manufacturing or industrial areas, those that are on the call. You may have particular designs, or you may even have a patent, something really special that you can sail out to the world to build your fortune. But let's begin at the start. If you've got an idea that you're developing, because there's various people on the call, let me just make this one core point, is that it is a human resource. Intellectual property is a product of the mind or intellect. We have many ideas every day. Ideas are cheap, but choosing the good ones are the ones that are often connected to self. And this is a problem often that you may wish to see solved in the world, whether it's about helping others like Dante does, access digital tools, resources, and to promote their business. The whole idea, your ideas come from self. When you then overlap that with a problem to solve, you actually have a solid idea. And I say this because it's with respect to all of us. Every single one of us on this call has at some point probably left a job to start developing their own ideas. And that was an individual and personal pursuit, because this is a human resource and your ideas have value. My job as an IP specialist is to help explore your best ideas and bring them to market. And that's the cornerstone of my ideology. As we discussed before, it is about developing ideas. There's many tools you can use to do that. There's the business model canvas, for example. There's numerous places in the territory you can actually gain and access training around how to use this resource. I'm not going to cover it much today. Suffice to say, when you have personally made the decision to develop your idea, you need to develop it normally as a business plan. And a business model canvas can be the early expression of that. Expression is really what I'm all on about. As I mentioned to you before, there is numerous forms of intellectual property in your business. Now, copyright is one of the most obvious ones that exists in the business. And I'll give you an overview of what copyright is. But I just wanted to give you a list of, because Dante is kindly providing his time today, of where we're actually at in the ideas economy and where traditional copyright meets digital copyright. Who on the call, for example, has a website? Okay. Feel free to actually point out any of these as we go. Who on this has a business plan? A business plan is a traditional copyright material. It's actually not a registrable piece of intellectual property, but it is protected under the Copyright Act 1968. This can also include your schematics, written concepts, books like I've just produced, marketing materials, and most crucially, your most valuable copyright, without a doubt, is your database and your customer list. Many of you may also be aware of the further rules around privacy and how you have to protect customer information. The news here, folks, is that copyright is also is your valuable data. I just wanted to show you that because it's very handy as now we kind of go into the heart and the hull of your ship, and when you explore some of these elements of intellectual property further. But what is intellectual property? Let's begin here. The World Intellectual Property Organization is an area of law which enables people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, that is your ideas. The legal definition is in essence just this. It's the product of the mind of your intellect. So there is no shadow of a doubt that everyone on this call today has products, valuable intellectual property. Let's explore some of them today with the notion of copyright. Copyright, as I just mentioned before, is like oxygen. It exists in our business. We breathe it in and we breathe it out every day. Now, with the proliferation of social media channels, we are actually breathing in and out copyright. Anyone that is signed up to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram is sharing copyright as soon as they post it on a feed. If you share a blog post of someone else, you are sharing somebody's copyright. So in the digital world, copyright is actually more important forever. We sit on a sea of copyright, and it is actually up to us as the captains of our ship to navigate a course towards commercial success. Essentially, copyright is identity. It exists in your logo, your brand, your business plan, your website. It's in your ideas, perhaps for apps, or perhaps in a more traditional business. It is in the formula in which you, for example, are making shimmering sugars, for in catering. It exists. Coca-Cola is probably one of the biggest trade secrets in the world, and that means big business. Copyright is a bundle of economic rights enshrined in the Copyright Act 1968, which gives the owner the exclusive right to own the intellectual property it creates. Copyright protection is automatic upon creation of the work. There is no need to register a work. It has no official register. However, my job here in helping you become a diligent captain of your ideas is to offer you this important tip. The copyright symbol, which all of you on the call would recognize, is used for notification purposes to put people on notice that their work is protected by copyright. And for everyone on the call today, I have this complimentary tip. And this goes for anyone that works with Dante and anyone that has a website. The copyright symbol is free to use. And simply by placing copyright, for example, Clickstarter Proprietary Limited, from the earliest possible date, say it's 2010. Dante, when was it that you started your business or had the first business plan for the business?
2016.
2016 to 2022. So Dante can put that on every resource that goes out that is a visible resource. And he can tie it back to his proprietary limited company, because therefore he is putting people on notice that all of his work is protected by his business. It is free for you to use that symbol. And quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, it is like putting up a ring fence around your property. If you left your front door open in the CBD of Darwin, Dante, how long do you think it would be until someone came in to steal your plasma screen?
Oh, I give it about 15 minutes in this day and age.
That's right. Depending where you live, it might be everywhere from 30 seconds to 15 minutes. But the reality is you actually close the door, and you put on a sign on the front gate saying, "Stay off the grass." That's what the free use of a copyright symbol does. It certifies that you are the owner of this valuable intellectual property on everything within the building. And please, respectfully, stay off the grass. Also, I might just add at this point, because we mentioned data and privacy, is copyright. One other thing that should be going on your website, without a shadow of a doubt, is a privacy policy. That's a requirement by law under the Privacy Act 1988. And now with additional concerns around cybersecurity, another thing that should be on your front gate is a privacy policy. This is something that I help business owners with, but more importantly, it's actually about building trust for your customers in how you're handling their data. So I encourage you to also think, perhaps write this down, along with a notion of putting a copyright symbol tied to your business, a privacy policy on the front door of your website. That, in essence, is copyright. I'm going to move on because we've only got an hour session today, and I want to leave time for questions. But I also then want to move on to actually describe another really important part of intellectual property that lies within every business owner on the call. Thank you very much for sharing some of the names of your business here. We know Clickstarter is one business, but I'm also going to ask someone else on the call. Dante, maybe you could help me out. Can you choose a business owner that replied in the chat who mentioned their business name?
Yeah, I think we might actually look at someone who I think actually does have quite a bit of intellectual property. I think Mark Fraser mentioned Oilfield Connect, and he's got quite a lot of, I guess, intellectual property. I think he would be very keen on protecting. So would you like me to bring Mark
Oilfield
onto
Connect. Yeah,
live?
why not? Yeah, let's talk with Mark live. I think it's great. This is it's a collaborative session.
Awesome, no worries. Mark, I'll just bring you through to come into the panel so you can have a bit of a chat. So we can kind of, I guess, use you as a bit of an example. You just got to accept the invitation I just sent you, as which you've just done. So yeah, so pop on, Mark, and Gareth.
Thank
Mark,
you.
we're live with you.
Hey, hi, how are you, Mark?
Just needs
Hi,
to unmute.
greeting. Yeah, you might be on mute, but Oilfield Connect. Let's start with the name. All great things and ideas start with a name. Oilfield Connect sounds really intriguing. Mark, what's Oilfield Connect all about?
Okay, so I'm actually selling products like a supply chain to the oil and gas industry. So on one side, I have vendors and manufacturers in multiple countries, and on the other side, I have an industry which is across multiple countries.
Yeah,
So,
excellent.
yeah.
And so you supply chain services, is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, that's the main one. So I'll get a request for quote or a tender sent to me, and I look at the most likely manufacturers for that sort of product and send out a request to them. Pass it back forwards.
Is
mark
that
it
an
up.
online? Is that an online platform that you're sourcing those quotes and tenders?
A lot of it is directly to our company, but sometimes we do, net them through LinkedIn and so forth.
Okay, great. So how long have you been building the business, Mark?
It was registered in 2014, went live in 2016.
Okay, great. So would you say that your brand has value in the marketplace? Oilfield Connect.
Yeah, a lot of people know about it. It started off originally as being a little bit of a territory thing, and it slowly went out into other parts of Australia. I started supplying a lot of stuff into Queensland, South Australia and West Australia. But currently, I've got equipment, say, going out of India into Brazil and out of China into Africa. And so I've sort of almost left the Australian market behind. I'd probably do better overseas than in Australia now.
Okay. Well, look, this is really useful because what we're hearing from Mark is that he has a valuable business and, you've built a valuable reputation under the name of Oilfield Connect. You're probably a classic, Mark, for a territory business. And it's great to have all business owners on the calls. But what I've really noticed up here, I'm originally from country Victoria and practiced in Melbourne, Sydney, Dubai, London for a number of years. But basically, what I've noticed in Darwin is that actually it's a real, it's the heart and soul of what Australia probably was for many, many decades. And now, through the digital channels, a business like yours can actually explore an international marketplace. So therefore, more than ever before, your brand has value. And the news is, Mark, that you're actually capable of protecting, and it's important to protect that brand. Your brand has value and worth. And whether you're a industrial entrepreneur or whether you're a consultant, your brand has value. And that brand can actually be protected by way of a trademark. One example, for example, who can mention this gentleman's name on the call? There should be a free book for the first person who actually pops that into the chat. But this is, of course, Sir Richard Branson. And from the 1960s, he's actually been building a valuable brand. Mark, you've been building a brand for 5 years. Oilfield Connect is how people know you. Essentially, a trademark protects your badge of origin, your name, your logo, and the products and services that you deliver to the marketplace, and protects it as a valuable asset of your business. Now, brand equity, brand value has an incredible value now in a digital world, because, Mark, if you were starting this business 15, 20 years ago, many probably in the territory would say, well, that brand, people know me like that around here. But the fact is, people around oil fields all around the world know you as Oilfield Connect. And therefore, you have a valuable asset to add to your business. Someone else that was on a boat when he started his business was Richard Branson, and that was under the name of Virgin. Virgin, fast forward 50 years, and now Virgin actually has 4,000 trademarks worldwide. 172 of them are in Australia alone. and he's actually leveraged that brand into many different industries. And that's through the power of his trademark. Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Cola, Virgin Airlines, just a small business there. And it's suffering a little bit at the moment due to COVID. But regardless, these are assets and they are worthy of your protection. I'm going to give everyone on the call, including Mark, might even do Mark's business on the call. I'm going to do a quick search on Oilfield Connect to see if we can actually register it. It's capable of registering as a trademark. But just before I give you this useful tool, I just want to remind everyone on the call, much like copyright, that trademarks are protectable by law. One of the biggest anomalies that I often come across is that people think they've got the website name, so they think they own the name in the marketplace. A website is a license. It does not give you legal ownership of your name, and someone else could register the trademark, for example, Oilfield Connect, before you, and then actually force you and push you off your domain name. So that's just a cautionary tale, and I say it with respect because you have spent many years and often in developing your ideas, and they are worthy of your protection. And only a trademark will actually give you legal protection of your name, your domain names, and all the marketing materials that you have invested in to actually develop your business further. A trademark can be simply protected. It's a 7.5-month process, but it all begins with the name and whether it's capable of protecting as a trademark. We're going to do this live with Mark on the call today. And I'm going to encourage everyone else to actually search for their own trademark treasure. There is one tool that is free to use here that I can suggest also as a third top tip for today. That's to actually look for your proposed or your existing business name here on the Search IP Australia Gov website. I'm going to click on this link now and hopefully it'll go through. And I'm going to actually search for Mark's name. Oilfield Connect, correct, Mark?
Yes.
Open.
Just at the bottom of our website, we have the copyright notice at the bottom.
Fantastic. That's
at
great.
2016, the data went live.
That's great. Fantastic. Good to see Mark, being diligent about protecting his IP there. But in the field of trademarks, the good news is that no one has actually registered this name. No, sometimes if you've got a very common name, then people may be using it, and that does provide a problem. But the good news for Mark is that Openfield Connect isn't taken. You can do other quick searches like Openfield just to double check. Mark should know that there are a couple of other business owners using Openfield, but thankfully they seem to be only in the areas of produce. It looks like eggs or agricultural produce.
Sorry,
This number of,
it's not Openfield, it's Oilfield.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. Thank you. Oilfield.
One word. Oilfield, one word.
Did I look at the right one before or not?
Yeah.
Oilfield Connect. Thank you so much, Mark. The good news is Oilfield Connect is available. And if we looked at Oilfield, you can use this tool to do variations. This is interesting for you, Mark. Oilfield Services, Hofco. I'm not sure if you know of them,
yes,
but these are other businesses that use Oilfield in their name in Australia. Thankfully, there's not a lot of them. I've seen examples where, for example, I have a existing client who actually does branding services, and her name is Goldie. And unfortunately for Goldie, Gold is a popular name, and there's 170 versions of Gold or Goldie on the trademark register. So she is unable to protect her own brand name, and she's in the branding business. Thankfully for Mark, in Oilfield Services, his name is capable of registering as a trademark, and that, sir, is a valuable asset that you can put on your boat. I'm going to go back because we only have another half an hour. And, oops, sorry, one moment, please. And I'll rejoin the slides here. But yeah, I encourage you all to have a look at that. All you need to do is do a trademark search on Atmos. It's the Atmos database. It's connected to IP Australia. You can find it on ipaustralia.gov.au. and you can all do a search. I encourage you to do a search. I encourage you to value your most important and visible asset, which is your brand. So let's move along. So we've covered copyright, we've covered trademarks, but for those also in industrial manufacturing or with Mark, perhaps you have some valuable designs in your business. Mark, what are do you produce anything, or do you connect and provide quotes?
There's a certain level of engineering. I'm 40 years in industry and I have a manufacturing background, but currently it's a fully virtual business. I'm the only employee, home-based. And so it's my vendors who have all the manufacturing and they have the engineering as well.
Okay. Well, look, this is interesting in terms of how you connect with business owners and the valuable IP that you may be sharing, because you're a manufacturer and because actually Dante is a designer of sorts as well. Both of you gentlemen will likely have valuable designs in your business. Dante, if we can just switch to you for a minute. You design websites, correct?
Right, yep.
And you also develop brands?
Yeah, I've definitely developed brands from the ground up. So I'm going from everything from what their ideas are, what their expression is, through to the visible assets and even the audio assets that go with that.
Excellent. So you're dealing actually with a lot of copyright and probably trademarks. But do you, copyright and trademarks. Designs, probably not so much in all honesty, because the design of a website is considered copyright. But in Mark's case, if as an industrial manufacturer, did you at one stage, sir, develop products from ground up?
Yes, there's sort of a blending because the industry has actual standards for certain products. So those are not requiring any engineering other than following the industry standard for that product. Say a flange or something might have a certain material thickness and hole size and so forth. But other times there is like in industries, there can be a problem arise and requires a solution. Then there's collaboration. The collaboration began between my client engineers and my manufacturing engineers and my own experience to come up with a design. But ultimately, the client signs off that they accept that that's a working thing. And then we go to manufacture.
Fantastic. Yeah. So this is the area of manufacturing. There's a lot of images on the screen there, from cameras to calculators to iPod, very valuable design. And actually, it is the realm of where a lot of engineers and industrial designers play. The distinction I'd just like to make today is around designs and patents. A design protects a product's look, shape, ornamentation, or feel. So if you're in the business of engineering products or designing new products, then this is something to pay attention to. Basically, a design protects the overall visual appearance of a new and distinctive product. So this is the look and shape of it. As I showed you before, it could be the shape of some glasses, the shape of an iPhone. It could be a new camera, or it could be an industrial device. I've worked with an industrial manufacturer earlier this year that had a distinct way of developing a way of actually painting the roof of your house, right? And so he has cornered the global marketplace with a piece of a machinery that actually, it's a bit, it's almost like a spray bit that goes on a spray gun. And that is a registrable design. And it also is a patent. But the most important thing is, like this laptop you see in front of you, that is a protected design. Apple, you can bet your bottom dollar, Apple has invested millions of dollars in the protection of their designs. In fact, I happen to know that they even have registered the designs of their unique boxes that they sell them their products in. That is protectable because it's valuable intellectual property. And I'm not going to advocate for what is one of the richest companies in the world, which happens to be Apple. But the point is that intellectual property has worth. And whether you're a computer manufacturer, whether you're in oil and gas engineering, whether you are developing whether you're a designer, fashion designers can use designs to actually protect their most popular labels. These are all valuable intellectual property. And depending on your business, You will have varying degrees of all this intellectual property. My job today is to just show you and illuminate you to what intellectual property is, so that you can then put it safely in the hull of your boat to sail towards your success. Let's move on. Designs are protected under the Designs Act 2003. It's a registrable right, much like a trademark. It's basically what a product looks like and protects its look, shape, ornamentation, or feel. This can be shape, configuration, pattern, or ornamentation. And when applied to a product, it gives it a unique appearance. Okay, a designs rights are protected. It is not costly to register these instruments, but when you do have them registered, a design, for example, will have you protected and put an asset in your business for 5 years, and it can be renewed after that period of time. And likewise, a trademark, your valuable flag that goes above your ship, protects your business for 10 years. I mean, you wouldn't go driving, without wearing a license. So it always surprises me how many business owners are driving without protecting their most visible and valuable asset, their trademarks, and in this case, designs. Let's move on to this last point, because, Mark, this might provide some other food for thought. Patents, as distinct from designs, actually protect the new use or new functionality of a product. They are protected under the Patents Act 1990. And here are just a couple of examples of valuable products. Okay, some of these are in the clothing area, but shoes and caps and hats. I'm a big fan of hats. I love wearing my Cuba up here in the territory. But other things have been protected over time. Engineering and manufacturing have, over years, one of the most prolific patenters of all time was Thomas Edison. His estate held over 1,000 patents. He certainly had more than 1,000 ideas, but 1,000 of those he saw a valuable commercial work. And I will only mention one company's name, General Electric, which he founded, which is still alive and well today, to show and demonstrate the value built on the back of patents. Okay, one of my favorite patent stories of Thomas Edison is actually that of the kinetoscope. My interest up here in the territory as well is as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, and working in digital media myself. My particular passion is augmented reality. However, my point is that Thomas Edison, worked, not only is famous for inventing the light bulb, but he also invented something called the kinetoscope, which actually displayed a Nickelodeons, and he actually commercialized it so that everyone had to buy the machine to see the Nickelodeon, the animation of the horse jumping over the fence from him. In actual fact, that kinetoscope is what created Hollywood, because all the producers of the time, Edison was so actually ferocious about the protection of his IP that he'd only let 8 producers produce films for the kinetoscope. And then one guy said, I don't believe that's fair. He goes over to California in a small orchard outside LA, makes a film called Old Time California. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Hollywood began. So patents can be used to squeeze people out of the market, but also innovation builds on the ideas of yesterday. And now Hollywood has been usurped by Netflix. New innovations, new hardware, new ways of broadcasting media, all of them are patentable rights, and they have value. Mark, have you ever created any patents in your time as an engineer?
No, I haven't, but our industry is full of them, and it is an interesting area. For instance, some of the products that I currently sell have a generic industry design, but then there are major multinationals. I'll just name some, for instance, Halliburton, Weatherford. These are very big companies.
Yeah,
Have patented products. Some of those products have expired. They've passed 20 years and they haven't continued on.
Yeah.
And I've looked at those products, checked that they are expired out of their patent period, and then looked at how I can improve them, made some small modifications, and then offer those as an improved variation.
That's very clever strategy. In fact, Mark's onto something that is, a great way to advance your interest in an industry. He has identified that certain patents have lapsed. And a patent, as noted here, there are two kinds of patents now available through IP Australia. One is a standard patent that lasts for 25 years. What Mark has done is identified where an expired patent is expired, hasn't been renewed, and he can actually leverage off the intellectual property that has been produced in his industry to create further value and actually own that outright. That is a really powerful demonstration of a strategy, which I take my hat off to you, Mark. I think that's a really, really good way to advance your interests. But it comes to an understanding what patents are. So for everyone on the call, let's just quickly go over that. A patent will give you the right to stop others from manufacturing, using, or selling your invention in Australia without your permission, and potentially the world. Once you've registered in Australia, your own backyard, you can actually take your patent through the Patent Cooperation Treaty to 115 member countries all around the world, including the US, European Union, and many others. It's how you build a very big global business. And basically, once you have a patent, you have many options. You can license someone else to manufacture your invention or agree terms for people to use your product. And that sometimes can bring in global royalties. Patents are a really important way of growing new inventions. Traditionally, they have been in engineering, manufacturing, but we are also seeing this also in the world of digital, in software. My business partner, he's a patent attorney. He's a seasoned entrepreneur himself. He's actually built and sold a cloning business. He's also helps business owners develop and protect their software as patents. And I'm only going to mention Microsoft to note the power of patents and the licensing and how big that business is worth. It is worthy of your protection. And if those that do go on the patent path will see their ideas leveraged possibly to a nationwide or even global scale. And the two patents available through IP Australia are a provisional patent and a standard patent. I mentioned the standard patent before, it's 25 years, but you don't have to develop something for the next century. You can be just exploring an idea. And that's where a provisional patent comes in. This protects your idea and sets a priority date for your new invention. And it actually puts, it's lodged with IP Australia and sets a registration time so that therefore you can actually say you have an ownership of the idea and you're exploring the idea. A provisional patent is only 12 months. So if you've got something that has real commercial value, you're exploring it. The good news is once you actually have a patent, it's highly valued by investors because they're going to ask, Mark, how have you protected this idea? What are we investing in? You will say, I have a provisional patent or I have a patent. And they will say, great, Mark is the owner of this idea. So make your mark by understanding the value of trademarks, copyrights, and now patents, because big business has for well over several centuries been built on the power of patents. And I'm just going to leave this section for the cautionary tale, because we have great ideas in this nation. There is no doubt there's some fantastic innovations that have come out of Australia. The black box recorder, the Hills hoist clothesline, the Qantas actually developed the black box recorder. And all these things are worthy of those companies' protections. Some businesses do this better than others. And unfortunately, this cautionary tale is really about the lack of protection that our chief scientific and industrial research organisation made over what could have been has spawned a groundbreaking industry like to Silicon Valley here in Australia. We actually were the first to bring wireless to the world. It was invented in the 90s by Dr. John O'Sullivan and a number of others that worked for CSIRO. However, the patent was never protected. They certainly gained awards and accolades, but they never protected it. And within a matter of 10, 13 years, this technology was reproduced by a commercial enterprise in the States and was in 5 billion devices worldwide. Now, you can bet your bottom dollar that they were not happy about this. However, they did not show due diligence around the protection of this asset. and unfortunately escaped these shores. And it was an American business that still to this very day is benefiting in the billions that this technology and this invention created. So if that's not enough to shake the apathy around intellectual property, I don't know what will. But the Wyland patent case did go to court. They did settle. Unfortunately, the small remuneration they got is nothing what the industry is worth in terms of where Wi-Fi has taken us as in the world. And unfortunately, this lies as a cautionary tale for all Australians to seek protection of your intellectual property at the earliest strategic opportunity. Okay, so we have just completed a sort of a very broad overview of what intellectual property is. I have actually developed and has since 2015 been giving away a free IP assessment tool. It's a 2-pager. If you are interested in understanding the value of your intellectual property, I encourage you to sign up for that. Often I do run workshops and masterclasses just on that, but this is a little bit different. If you're interested in actually getting hold of that 2-pager to understand what the copyright, the trademark, potential patents are in your business, or designs, then I encourage you to sign up. Just in the chat box, in the sign up on the website there, and I will send that out to you. Here's an NT business that we did an IP assessment with recently. I'm just here to try and show you where the IP lies in your business. Barbara Glifford is a coach. She operates from Alice Springs. We did an IP assessment online in a similar session to this in June. Just so you know, Barbara runs a coaching business, and she's also the founder of Hinwood Institute, which is actually about helping business owners grow their business. And basically, we did an IP assessment. This is what the IP assessment looks like. It's education materials. She has digital, website, copy, web, images, social media pages, data. She has a database and social media followers. Thankfully, she has registered her trademark. The timetable is a registered trademark. The Hinwood Institute is a pending trademark. So she has 2 valuable trademarks to her name. She's building some software. So we've got a question there around whether we can actually protect that as a design. But most importantly of all, Barbara is leveraging her knowledge through coaching programs, both online and offline, through licensing terms. Okay, and licensing is what you can do once you have your valuable IP asset. Okay, it's much like when you have got the boat. Okay, when you are actually in the boat and you've actually protected these things as a captain of your ideas, you may have valuable copyright, a valuable patent, perhaps some designs, and you surely will have your trademark as a flag you're flying high above your ship. But you're actually able to sail out to new markets, and you're able to draft and negotiate terms. And that's what licensing is. It's actually leveraging your intellectual property through contractual terms. Anyone that's ever signed on for an app will know that they are signing up to an end user license agreement. That's a license for you to use the app, whether it's Canva, whether it's a SurveyMonkey, or whether it's SquirrelMap. Any of these things are apps, and you sign up for them. These are your terms of trade, and a licensing agreement is actually a contract that allows you to leverage your valuable intellectual property. We've only got 10 minutes left, so I just want to leave it at this, that accelerating your intellectual property is really important once you've actually protected it. You can bet your bottom dollar that Sir Richard Branson's business is worth more than just one Virgin music store. He has several businesses, and they are protected through trademarks and also agreements around all of his intellectual property. Much of his success has been defined by a solid strategy. And this is the area that Australia tends to fall down to most. In order to sail to new markets and find your treasure, you need to develop an IP strategy once you have protected your intellectual property. And as IP Australia states, an intellectual property or commercialized strategy is your treasure map for success. It is designed to achieve the long-term aim of protecting and growing the valuable intellectual property in your business. It guides and interacts you with the considerations involved in choosing the best way to market. And this is an area that once you've protected your IP, you can actively develop because your hold is secure and you can actually sail this into the new markets of your blue ocean success. And perhaps as Mark has experienced, as Dante has experienced, as many of you have experienced on the call, my only question for you today is what will it be? What will it take for you to reach your goal? Because what you'll find that your product of your ideas and intellect, your own intellectual property is valuable for you. It is your gold. And at the end of this story, you'll find that you are searching the world for treasures, but the real treasures are your ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, before I open up to some questions, I have a special offer. It was a free IP assessment, but also this is a culmination of 20 years of my work in this field of intellectual property. I've written a book called Ideology, a compass to intellectual property success in the ideas economy. I'm having a book launch. If you're in the territory, we warmly welcome you to the Darwin Innovation Hub on Friday, the 24th of September for an in-person event because we've had enough of COVID and Zooms and lockdowns. But if you do happen to be in the state, you're also warmly welcome to this hybrid event as we will be Zooming it live. And I'll be giving away a copy of my book, Ideology, which is a compass to your intellectual property success in the ideas economy. These ideas I've been sharing with you today, I'm going to open up to questions. Dante, if you'd be kind enough to just share that link to the invite to the Ideology book launch, I'd be most grateful. And I thank you for your time because your ideas are gold and I'm looking forward to assisting you in bringing them to new blue oceans of success. Okay, we got 5 minutes for questions.
And now we do have a fair few questions in the chat. If you want to start maybe with Alex, who asked, at what stage would international protection, as in trademark, copyright, and all that sort of stuff, come into play for Mark's company in particular?
Okay, that's a really good question. For Mark's company, international protection. The news is that in order to have international protection, you need to protect your ideas in your own backyard. So the fact that Mark may have some patents and maybe also registering a trademark, all those things need to be registered in your home country first. So therefore, the answer to that is that once you've actually registered a trademark, registered a patent, or registered a design, thankfully, Australia is signed up to a number of international treaties, which allows you to then co-register them in other countries. In trademarks, it's called the Madrid Protocol. In patents, it's called the it's the Patent Cooperation Treaty. And there's an equivalent in designs as well. So it all begins with performing a registration, making that registration complete with IP Australia, through the guidance of an IP specialist is recommended. And the only reason being is that once you have successfully protected, because it's not guaranteed, it needs to be examined by a trademark designer or a patent examiner, you can then within 6 months obtain the same priority date and actually take it through IP Australia to any one of 115 countries that Australia, thankfully, is signed up to mutual intellectual property protection treaties. Does that answer your question?
Hopefully that does.
That help you too, Mark? Maybe Mark can make comment on that if he's still on the line.
I've actually got Mark back in the attendee list, but because we're short on time, we've got a few questions. Couple.
Yep.
Robert's asked, also made a statement, but there is a question in here. I own a company trading as Water Pumping Institute, which offers a 2-day training course, which is quite unique in the water industry. I've promoted this in Australia where its popularity is ramping up, but I've also presented it to the US personnel. I'm concerned about protecting my IP. So I'm guessing that how can someone protect something which is a 2-day training course, which is IP, obviously,
yes.
and then moving that same course off to offshore, I suppose, to the US?
Fantastic question. This sort of highlights licensing. I just touched on licensing today, but your business is similar to Barbara Clifford, the Hinwood Institute. Her intellectual property, a large proportion of it, is actually going to be protected in the licensing terms, a contract which actually your education materials, it's called a bundle of rights. It'll contain probably videos, it'll contain course materials, it will contain a number of objects. You need to bundle that up. And actually, the way you protect it is through a license agreement. A license agreement will allow you to then bring it to the world, to sell it online, or to actually offer it in face-to-face workshops. The answer to this question is that a licensing agreement will leverage your copyright materials. And while copyright is not a registrable right, a contract is the most solid way to protect any of this intellectual property. It's because a contract dictates the terms of how people can use your IP.
That's really good. Thank you for that. I've got another question here from Alex who's saying, does a design have to be registered before it hits the market or available to the market?
You're welcome, Robert. Yes, this is a really good question as well. The design absolutely needs to be protected before it hits the market. Why? Because it is your protection. Once you've registered a design, which is approved by a design registrar at IP Australia, you will have a 5-year, you'll have a certificate that actually protects it for 5 years. And so therefore you should absolutely have that protected before. You wouldn't sail your boat with it being half finished. Otherwise, you might go out into the ocean with a leaky hull. In a similar way, you should make sure your design is secure on your boat to sail into the blue oceans of your success.
I love that. The blue oceans of your success. It's very poetic, Gareth. Who thought that
I love
IP law,
stories.
IP law could be so dry, but no, we're sailing an ocean of blue success. I love it. I've got a question from Sally saying, my IP is creative-based coaching and well-being programs. I'm entering into a collaboration with a Kiwi training company, writing a self-paced well-being program for retail market. No, I know that they may modify and simplify some of my language to fit their market. So how do I manage this collaboration in a simple way with my creative ideas for well-being?
I think it's very similar to the other to the suggestion around licensing. That's another example of an education program. You need to basically develop this idea further. You need to develop this into whether it's digital resources or whether it's a face-to-face workshop. Someone like Dante can really help you, develop those ideas further, particularly and create digital assets. Once you have those assets, it's actually the same story. You actually bundle them up. It's a collection, it's an expression, a bundle of economic rights. You need to bundle them up in a contract and offering them as licensing terms.
Very cool.
I would say on the journey, on the ideology compass, you are somewhere between identifying and developing your idea. And once it's fully developed, you'll be able to go into expression and protecting it with intellectual property. Your strategy will come in commercialization, which is the S of ideas. And that's when you really take all those terms out to market and you'll be selling for customer success.
Next question is from BB, who's asking, am I allowed to share customer reviews left on my Facebook page across other social media channels or websites or in printed materials, including the Facebook profile picture and the full name of the customer?
I really like this question because I'm actually into the digital world and the frontiers that it presents. And just yesterday for a client, I was drafting terms around that was similar to Snick Snack for businesses terms of, like a platform like Snick Snack or Facebook will actually have rights in your comments, but that does not mean you cannot share it. And the point I want to make is I believe you can. I think the whole idea around copyright and using things in the digital world is 3 steps. It's about consent and credit. And by people posting on your walls, there is implied consent because they're using the platform. So it's consent is already there. And the third part is credit. So as long as you're crediting people, then I think it's perfectly fine. And it makes good business sense because your success and celebrating others' success becomes your success. So I would say go forth and make sure you credit, acknowledge, and be respectful about people's copyright because it will come back to you.
Thanks for that. That's our final question. We've been recording this, Gareth. Will this recording be made available for people to watch later on?
See, one of my attitudes around intellectual property, Dante, is that I share. I'm a sharer. And I'm going to say, send it forth, send it wide. I've been doing these sessions for free. You could go and get this information in Sydney and Melbourne for $350 an hour. I am happy to share my intellectual property because my investment is in you and your ideas. And I warmly welcome you to come along on the 24th of September at 8:30 a.m. at Darwin Innovation Hub, because even the book I'm giving away for free.
And I'll just repost that link again in the chat window for anyone to pick that up. Just click on that link. They'll be able to reserve your space at that particular event. Gareth, thank you so much for putting this in plain English, or well, let's just say in the storytelling version of plain English, and sales and blue oceans. It was certainly enlightening, and I know that we'll be talking very soon about my own trademarking requirements.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, then please do so through LinkedIn or gareth@ipassist.com.au. Send me a link and I'm happy to share the video and even share the slides of today's session.
And that email address is also just being put into the chat window. So quickly copy that before we end this particular webinar. Thank you so much for joining us all. Thank you, Gareth, for enlightening us. And I hope you all have a fantastic week and weekend coming up, wherever you are in Australia. Hopefully you're staying safe and staying well as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much.